Good evening. Welcome to the Scotch Plains-Fanwood Board of Education regular public board meeting. Today is December 15th, 2022. Mr. Canales, will you please call the roll?
Sure. Ms. Bauer,
Here.
Ms. Boroff,
Here.
Ms. Brody,
Here.
Ms. Mitchell, Ms. Soriani,
Here.
Ms. Williams, Ms. Winkler,
Here.
Mr. Murray. Here. Dr. Kulikowski.
Here. Quorum is present. Thank you, Mr. Canales. Please join me in the salute to the flag. Ready? Begin.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Just prior to coming out here, we held our executive session. During the executive session, we had some HIB training. We discussed the personnel agenda. We discussed some HIB cases. We reviewed the suspension and detention report, and we reviewed the legal status report. At this time, we have two additions to the agenda. 9S, Pilot Scotch Plains-Fanwood Teacher Career Advancement Program Support Team, and 16 BUS Special Education Settlement Agreement. Dr. Mass, the superintendent's report, please.
Yes, I have two pieces of news. One's back from September, but we didn't acknowledge it publicly as a board. On September 24th, Beverly Kamenetsky passed away. Beverly was the principal of Evergreen Elementary School when she retired in 2001. Beginning in 1972, she also served as a teacher and an assistant principal during her tenure in the district. She was 87 years old when she passed. Her family had reached out. A number of our staff worked under Bev as their principal, and they really do remember her fondly. So I just thought during this holiday season, we could keep her in our heart and our prayers. And then on a much more celebratory note, our moon glowers are just amazing. And we have two moon glowers who have taken their love of music so seriously that they're actually opening for famous groups. So we have Nathan Ward, who is a senior, and he brought his guitar, and his friend Hassan Ali, who's on the alto sax, and they played for the opening with David Ostwald's Hot Four last Sunday in the Madison Community Arts Center. And I was going to invite them here, but we'll have to wait to hear them perform. And they will be showing up at a Moonglower concert soon. But really a big deal for them to open for that group. So very proud of them.
Great. Thank you, Dr. Mast. Business Administrator's Report, Mr. Canales?
I do not have a report this evening.
Okay, thank you. Student Board of Ed Rep, Jada?
Hi. So I have a couple of topics to cover today. So first, talking about college admissions. So today is a big day for seniors, but the month of December is a big day, like a big month in general, because a lot of early action and early decisions are coming out. We had a good amount of students get into Northeastern early decision last week. And if you guys are interested in keeping up with our 2023 senior college commits, the Instagram account you can follow is at SPF Seniors. And then we are just getting into the winter sports season this week. Another Instagram account for you to follow to keep up with our sports schedule and our sports teams is SPF Raider Nation. They post a schedule like every week. So for the most relevant schedule, tomorrow, Friday, bowling is away at the Jersey Lanes at 3 p.m. Who they're versing is still to be decided. There's a winter track invitational at Ocean Breeze Track and Field Complex at 4:30 p.m. Girls basketball is away at Summit High School at 6 p.m. Boys basketball home opener was, I believe, today at 7 p.m. So you can see the update on that. And then Saturday, wrestling is away at Governor Livingston at 9 a.m. Boys basketball is away again at 12:30 p.m. at Phillipsburg High School. Girls basketball is away at Menham at 1 p.m. And then moving on to our arts. The Winter Choral Concert is Monday, December 19th at 7:30 p.m. And then practices for the Rep Theater, The Drowsy Chaperone, are ongoing. The show dates for that are March 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th, all throughout that week. And then lastly, I'm ending with a student inquiry that I received about our recycling practices. A student reached out to me looking for clarity on our recycling practices. I do think this is very important to the student body, as we have an environmental AP environmental class, and we have Go Green Initiative clubs, and we have a lot of clubs kind of caring about the environment. So Dr. Mask and I think another committee leader are going to work on spreading the word about our recycling practices with the environmental clubs. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Montgomery. Mrs.
What was the
Bauer.
Instagram for the sports teams?
So this,
SBF Raider Nation,
yes.
about it.
There's like a
Thank you,
Shalina
Mr. Murray.
for that, too.
It's Mr. Murray's thing.
Any other questions for Ms. Montgomery?
It is.
It's athletics.
Okay, well, thank you again, Ms. Montgomery.
SPF.
And the board president announcement.
The seniors.
The New Jersey Open Public Meeting Law was enacted to ensure the right of the public to have advance notice of and to attend meetings of public bodies at which any business affecting their interests is discussed or acted upon. In accordance with the provisions of this act, the Scotch Plains-Fanwood Board of Education has caused notice of this meeting to be published by having the date, time, and place thereof posted at the Board of Education offices located at 512 Cedar Street, Scotch Plains, New Jersey. Such notice was also provided in written notice and forwarded to the Union County Hawk, the Star Ledger, the Township Clerk of Scotch Plains, and the Borough Clerk of Fanwood in the revised annual notice of regularly scheduled meetings as adopted April 28, 2022. At this time, it's the instructional update, presentation of strategic goals by Dr. Joan Mast, Dr. Robert McGarry, Dr. Lisa Rabimbus, and Mr. James Canellis.
We're going to do it right from our seats this evening. The board has received the strategic planning, the goals that we have for the 22-23 year, so you have that document. It is also posted on our website for the public underneath the strategic planning tab. At this point, it's still in draft form until it's approved, and we're just making some final edits. So to remove to some of the highlights, the annual goals are generated from the district strategic plan. The district strategic plan was created together with the district faculty, the Board of Education, students, and the community to identify 4 goals to guide our work for the 2022 through 2025 school years. This year, we have identified 57 initiatives that are addressing specific objectives under the 4 goals. There are a lot of people working on those initiatives. We have the diversity, equity, and inclusion goal. We have educating the whole child. We have community partnership and engagement, and facilities and infrastructure. These initiatives, in some cases, are expansions of work that was started last school year. The whole administrative team has worked together to design the initiatives that will successfully make our strategic plan a tool with significant impact. Tonight, we're going to share some highlights that we're working on for this year from those 57 initiatives. We will start with Goal 4 and work our way backwards to Goal 1. So I'm going to ask James Canellis to tell us about Goal 4.
Thank you, Dr. Mass. Goal 4 encompasses our work designed to provide safe, accessible, innovative, and sustainable spaces for our students. We have spent the majority of our time mapping out our master plan for district-wide infrastructure given the forecasted enrollment increases resulting from current and planned real estate development. We validated our anticipated enrollment expansion and building capacities with studies performed by our demographer and architects, respectively. Using this data, we will now strategize with all stakeholders to formulate our district's infrastructural vision to address known challenges, but also anticipating future student needs and opportunities. Much of that has been discussed by our BA, Mr. Jones, over the past few months with the community and administration. Other objective-driven initiatives underway include, we're in the planning phase of a bid for a new innovative life skills room at the high school that will provide students with disabilities the essential skills needed for post-graduation. We've initiated an RFP for before and after care designed to enhance services provided and student experiences. Proposals have been submitted, and we intend to award a contract in January. In addition, we've updated our transportation software, which allows for more efficient routing and faster communication of bus routes to parents. In addition, we have reassigned drivers to our more complicated routes to improve arrival times and student experiences. And that we will continue our work through the year, and we'll report out on future successes.
So now for goal 3, that goal is community partnerships and engagement. We continue to weave the alma mater into district events as a tool to bring the community around a common vision, all to here belong. And we have established a new district logo that provides a visual representation of the district's mission. The 4 symbols on the logo represent academic achievement, appreciation for the importance of the arts, athletic excellence, and community partnerships. The district is committed to sharing district news and accomplishments through a monthly newsletter that also highlights upcoming events. We want to continue to create ways to partner with the community, as seen in a recent event where community members were engaged in presenting the first SPF High School Women in STEM and Business Night. Community members took time to highlight their careers and to provide our students with both valuable insights and advice. Finally, we want to share the district's resources in mental health through the publication of Caregivers Corner and creating a directory of support for K-12 students. The district partnership with CPAG, which stands for Special Education Advocacy Group, continues to become stronger. Parents and district administration are working together for the benefit of all of our students. And I would now like to pass Goal 2 to Dr. Rabimbis.
Thank you, Dr. Mast. Goal 2 focuses on educating the whole child and asks us to engage all students academically, socially, and emotionally to be resilient, creative, critical thinkers through authentic learning experiences so they may feel validated, self-aware, and interconnected, and can approach the world's challenges with empathy and passion. We have a great deal planned and being implemented in expanding social emotional learning opportunities for students pre-K through 12 that build resiliency and space for risk-taking in a safe environment. We recently learned that our application to be part of the state's Developing Resiliency with Engaging Approaches to Maximize Success, or DREAMS program, was successful. So we will be preparing to provide training to staff in the Nurtured Heart approach for creating a supportive and positive school culture. This will complement our ongoing efforts to implement Second Step, a research-based social emotional program in grades K through 4, and ALS PALS in preschool. We were also granted the opportunity to launch a teen mental health first aid program. This will allow us to teach students in grades 10 through 12 how to identify, understand, and respond to signs of mental health and substance use challenges amongst friends and peers. We are continuing to study potential middle school schedules that will expand student choice while focusing on student achievement and their social emotional needs. Additionally, we continue to consider various strategies to increase clubs and activities, including making space for high school students who are interested in esports and studying the potential to create a middle school sports program. We continue to explore our community-based learning resources, such as the historic Shady Rest Golf Country Club, which our social studies department recently visited with a focus on creating a student field trip. Additionally, we continue to have students partake in vocational experiences within the community. We are also continuing our work on our vision of a social justice academy, where we are beginning to identify a cohort of students who want to change the world by becoming educators.
Next year, we will offer our first additionally, next year we will offer our first dual enrollment course with Union County College. We also recently learned that we were approved by the College Board to join the AP African American History pilot. All very exciting news. The success of these efforts will be measured in unique ways. For example, student participation and experiences will be one data source. And in the area of SEL, we have established a goal in one of our schools that by May 2023, second grade students will increase one level on the emotional health rubric in the area of self-control and coping skills. I believe Dr. McGarry is going on to Goal 1.
So as you may recall, Goal 1 is intended to increase opportunities to develop a district committed to diversity, equity, and inclusion through both hiring practices of educational and support staff, curriculum development, and student empowerment. Bless you. With the words "all to here belong" of our alma mater ringing in our ears and the strong foundation for DEI work that preceded this year, we've entered this new year with an even stronger drive to achieve this goal. Our work is focused on implementing strategies that will ensure that DEI becomes an even stronger part of who we are and what we do as a district. This year, we're planning to communicate our purpose and belief with our families, which we did last year and developed with staff last year, through family workshops, and engage with organizations such as the Center for Black Educator Development, whose missions align with our efforts to increase diverse educational staffing, training, and capacity building. And we're going to also strengthen our university partnerships to bring future educators into our schools and classrooms. We've invited organizations such as the Tri-State Consortium of Schools, the New Jersey Network of Superintendents, and NORC at the University of Chicago to collaborate with us on 2 significant action research projects that are relevant to this goal. Our administrators and faculty have identified projects offering a set of after-school professional development workshops and book clubs that support our purpose and beliefs and build upon previous all-staff workshops, including the Creating Inclusive Classrooms, which was introduced in the fall of 2021, and Culturally Responsive and Trauma-Informed Instruction, which was introduced this fall. Building upon current school and classroom libraries, we're enhancing accessibility to culturally responsive literature with corresponding professional development. We're also identifying areas to support teachers in working with our ELs, our English language learners, and implementing interventions related to ensure all ELs have access to the K-12 curriculum through social and academic opportunities. We're using data available to us from the PSAT to identify student AP potential, while also identifying and addressing any barriers that exist to enrollment in these courses. Our social studies teachers, as Dr. Rabimbas mentioned, they're exploring resources available through local historical commissions and museums for integration into appropriate places in the curriculum. As she said, teachers recently toured Shady Rest and are working to integrate a field trip to this important site. In the area of curriculum instruction, we're now using a checklist for all future adoptions of materials to identify and avoid biases. And we're working to develop a school calendar that is inclusive of and responsive to the holidays celebrated within the community.
So all of these initiatives that were just highlighted represent a pathway to achieve our annual goals. These goals will be measured in a variety of ways. Some, such as our work with Tri-State Consortium or our action research focused on belonging in mathematics, will yield reports with recommendations. Our goals will be measured in programs being held or courses added or modified, and still others will be implementations of new practices, such as JADA, being part of our Board of Education as a student representative. And soon for the new year, we will also be adding an additional student representative from the junior class. So JADA will have a student partner. The annual goals highlighted tonight can be found in their entirety on the district website under the strategic planning goals. We look forward to updating the Board of Ed and the community on our progress throughout this year. Thank you to everyone who's engaged in the work and who is supporting the strategic plan. It is really a Herculean yet excited and passionate effort. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Mass, Mr. Canellis, Dr. Rabembis, and Dr. McGarry. Do any of the board members have any questions or comments? Mrs. Bauer?
Well, first I want to say it's very ambitious for 1 year, so congratulations, everyone. And then I had a question about the dual enrollment. You're looking at multiple courses to make available to students for dual enrollment? Okay. And I think I asked this question before about the skills certification. We're looking at that not just for special ed, right?
Yes.
Because I see it's mentioned here with special ed, but
No,
opportunities
we
for
had talked
students.
about that.
Yeah,
Yep, thank you.
okay.
Any other question or comment?
I have a comment. I don't have a question, but I have a comment. Just thank you for your presentation, and I agree with Mrs. Bauer that how these goals were operationalized is very robust and thorough and exciting. And I know there were a number of people when the community came out to do the strategic planning that really had questions about what's next. You know, they said, okay, we've developed these goals now. What does it actually look like? Who do we hold accountable? So I really hope that people go on the website and really read because, again, it is very detailed and answers exactly that, down to who is responsible for carrying out the goals. So thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ariani. Ms. Montgomery?
I have a comment. I just think it's really great that we are implementing social justice initiatives into our curriculum, and also especially the African American pilot AP history course. I think is like such a big, like, I don't know, for me, you know, I think it's very important to have a course like that offered at the high school, because, you know, I have a younger sister who's probably going to come to the high school, and I'd be very excited for her to take that and experience that at the AP level.
Yeah.
Thank you, Ms. Montgomery. Anyone else? Okay, thank you all for that wonderful report. This brings us to our public comment session. In accordance with the Scotch Plains-Fanwood Public School Bylaw 0164 and 0165, the meeting will be open for 15 minutes for public comments. Maximum 3 minutes per speaker. Speakers addressing superintendent items, business functions, or other board business will be heard first. If time remains, speakers may address other matters. Speakers, please state your full name and the town in which you reside when you come to the podium to speak. Please note that board members should not be approached. In addition, board members cannot respond regarding concerns of individual students or staff members. Such matters should be addressed with the superintendent's office. So if you'd like to make a public comment, please come up to the podium at this time.
Gary Morris, Fanwood. Real quick, a lot of the thing about the inclusivity, I really think we need some way for parents and students and even teachers to report things anonymously. The company I work for, we have a speak up or speak out program where you're allowed to report something. Let's say you saw something unethical, but you didn't want to put your name to it because you were worried about blowback from somebody or vengeance from somebody or something like that. And I'm going to give a specific example of what a parent came to me and told me about, but she does not want to report this because in a discussion with her husband, they have differing views on whether this should be reported. That a teacher basically referred to parents who chose not to have their children vaccinated. This teacher referred to those parents as D-bags. And I'm using that phrase, not the phrase that was used by the teacher, but the cleaned up phrase. And I know we talk about inclusivity and everything like that, but when you have a teacher that crosses that line, I mean, here you're basically referring to parents whose taxes are paying his salary, or her salary, I should say. And so I think it's important that we have some avenue for parents and children and even other teachers when they see something that's not ethical, that's crossing the line, that they have a way of reporting it so you could get a feel for this before it becomes something that can become a lawsuit down the road. And again, just something I'm throwing out there. As a taxpayer, I don't want us getting sued over something that a teacher steps out of line and says something. But that's just not right to a parent that makes a medical decision for their child to be deemed a D-bag. It just seems like that's a sad thing coming from a teacher in our district. And the problem is, and this is why I have a voice where I could speak, because I don't have kids in the school anymore. I can speak. These parents feel like, if I say something, then it's going to hurt my kids' chances of getting into a school, or maybe it could be a coach, it could be this. It's really an awkward thing for them to report it with their name attached to it. And it could be the kind of thing after a while, maybe if a few people complained, you can look into a situation. And I'm not talking about getting people fired over things like this. I'm talking about just letting them know, look, we got this report, maybe you got to take it down a notch. That's all. Anyway, if there is some way to anonymously report or something like that, I'd rather not be the person having to tell you these things. I'd rather have them directly do some sort of anonymous report. If there is some way to do that now that I'm not aware of, I'd love to know what it is. Thanks.
Thank you for your comments, Mr. Morris. Is there anyone else that'd like to make a public comment this evening? There will be another opportunity later in the meeting.
So if I may, I do believe that, there are occasions where people anonymously report things. But that there might be a letter that comes to the superintendent's office that's not signed, but gives you, points at something. Of course, anything that is anonymous doesn't, hold the same weight, but certainly if it's something that's concerning our students, we would investigate that. You just gave an example of anonymous reporting. There would be no blowback to your kids. And really, as professionals, I understand that parents might perceive that there's a blowback, but I would push back on the blowback. That, we are all invested in our schools operating in the best interest of the community and our kids in particular. So, the piece is if a teacher did make that type of comment, if they expressed their public, or they expressed their personal opinion that didn't belong in that instructional forum, that would be a good thing to know. But even with your information, there's nowhere for me to go to that. But we as administrators, we are present in the schools. Our students will often express concerns to us. Like I walk through the halls and into classrooms all of the time. So that we do have a pulse on what's happening in our classrooms. But I do think, if you see something or if you hear something, it's your civic responsibility to say something. And if someone's afraid to do that because there's a blowback, there are other ways to bring that concern to the forefront.
Thank you, Dr. Mast. Are there any other public comments? Seeing none, then we'll close this portion of the meeting and move on to committee reports. Does anybody have a committee report? Mr. Murray?
Facilities and Finance met in a combined meeting on December 5th. We talked about the school's expansion project update. Still working through costs and classroom sizes, as well as exploring long-range options with regards to architect. And then there was a handful of board resolutions that we'll see tonight, the ones that stand out regarding sale of old backhoes, as well as some other maintenance items. And that was it.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Murray. Any questions? If there is any other committee reports? Mrs. Winkler?
Have a wellness and equity report. It's just brief that we met on the 5th of December, and we discussed the strategic plan, goals 1 and 2.
Okay, thank you, Mrs. Winkler. Any other reports? Mrs. Brody?
I have two. We had two meetings in between Board of Ed meetings. It's community relations. The first one's from November 22nd. Dr. Mass shared the information from the superintendent liaison meetings. And this is where every month a staff member from each school meets with the superintendent, and they share good news and bad news within the schools, and some very valuable information comes from those meetings. And we are going to start to report on those on my next report. So we'll wait for those. As mentioned earlier, on the junior rep for the board, that Dr. Heise had sent out applications, and they were due on the 12th. So we should look forward to see who gets chosen for that position. And we discussed the superintendent coffee that was held a few weeks ago now. And that concludes that report. And then the next report is from December 7th. And we met with Laura Bishop and Renee Jenowitz regarding communications for school expansion due to new developments. So we had some conversation about that. Christopher Jones explained the process for interviewing a potential new architect, and that the bid applications went out, and the board will have a final round of interviews before finalizing. And now for some good news from the superintendent liaison day. From Brunner. Brunner celebrated Native American Heritage Month with a performance by the Thunderbird American Indian Dancers. The performers talked about American Indian culture, including the meaning and significance of dance and storytelling through dance. Additionally, the performers also demonstrated dances and music from a variety of American Indian tribes. From Evergreen, they are participating in the excitement of the World Cup, which I know is coming to an end. A few fourth grade students had written a persuasive essay to Mrs. Molman with different ideas for school-wide participation. After further discussion, they decided on having each class represent a different country. Each class received a flag for their country to display. The display case is in the front hall and has the game results posted. Mr. Foray is helping keep that up to date. McGinn is celebrating National Children's Grief Awareness Month. School 1 celebrated World Kindness Day on November 14th with various activities in each classroom. Nettingham, we're celebrating the World Cup with a series of mini events, game tracking, and bulletin boards. Terrell Middle School Safe Space Club is a new club after school committed to providing a safe and inclusive space for all students. And the high school had successful performances of the fall play, She Kills Monsters. Now, I have to tell you, I pulled something from each school. The list was this long. There are so many things that go on in the school that parents don't participate in necessarily, and this is all going on within the schools. It's really cool, and if you could tell, everything was sort of a little different, with a little different spin on it. So it's really great, and we'll be reporting on these as they come about. So that's it. Thank you.
Deb, you were doing community relations, and what was the second committee?
Community relations.
Two community relations.
Yeah, there were two.
Wow, okay.
Sorry,
That's
I
it.
wasn't clear, yes, because they were both between
Gotcha.
meetings.
Great. That was some list. Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions or comments for Deb? Seeing none, is there any other reports to be heard?
I do, I have curriculum.
Oh, thank you, Stephanie. Go right ahead.
Okay. Okay, so our committee met on, last week, December 6th. The first thing was we discussed social studies proficiencies revisions, of which they are minor. There were minor changes to the proficiencies made for 9th grade United States History 1, 10th grade U.S. History 2, and 11th grade Global Perspectives. And the changes in the proficiencies were just to align with new state standards. The proficiency changes reflect a lot of what we're already doing in our classes, including using primary sources and teaching history and sharing diverse perspectives. And those minor proficiency revisions are on the agenda tonight for approval. Second agenda item was just minor changes to the course titles for visual arts, and that also is on the agenda tonight for approval. Due to the pattern of course enrollments and assessing whether the title of these courses accurately reflected the content, they were proposing that there's proposed changes. So currently, graphic design is the course, and the recommended change is commercial graphic design. Digital photography is going to become digital design. It reflects more about collecting and working with images than actually taking the images. And advanced digital photography, the proposed course title is Advanced Digital Design, again, for the same reason. The third agenda item we talked about was a map update by Dr. McGarry. If for most people probably remember that the MAP test measures growth in reading and math and indicates what students are ready to learn. It's an adaptive assessment, so the test looks different for each student as they take it. So as well as cohort data, results can be filtered by school, by demographic, and it hones into individual student results to see which students really need additional assistance and gives classroom teachers that information. The data shared by Dr. McGarry compared national norms, SPF results in fall 2001 and fall 2021 and fall 2022. The results in general showed increases in means across all grade levels, and the mean exceeds MAP norm scores. So these most recent results do suggest that students are rebounding from pandemic unfinished learning. And the last agenda item that we talked about was, again, we took a deep dive into the strategic plan, the goal for the whole child, and discussed the action plan for that goal.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Soriani. Any questions? Mrs. Winkler?
No, but the one thing I'd add was that with the MAPS scores, the MAPS norms, I believe, Dr. McGarry, correct me if I'm wrong, that the MAPS norms are pre-pandemic norms, right?
Correct.
So we're comparing ourselves with pre-pandemic norms.
Thank you for reminding
So
me that.
that's significant, I think. Yes.
Thank you, Mrs. Winkler. Okay. If there are nothing else, thank you, Mrs. Soriani. Any other reports? Seeing none, then we'll move on to letters to the board. 4 emails were received by the board from the public and forwarded to the appropriate administrator. Board motions. Superintendent report, Dr. Mast.
Thank you. 1S, I move that the Board of Education acknowledges the receipt of the November monthly enrollment. 2S, I ask the board to approve the out-of-district placement. 3S, I ask the board to approve the HIB decisions from November 17th. 4S, I move that the board approves the following, the listed field trips. 5S, I move that the Board of Education acknowledges receipt of the biannual report of gifts to the high school Evergreen and McGinn. For 6S, I move that the Board of Education approves the following curriculum revisions and course proficiencies. We'll come back for that roll call. For 7S, I move that the Board of Education approves the submission of the 5-year preschool program, early childhood program grant. And 8S, I move that the Board of Education acknowledges receipt of the annual strategic planning goals that we just discussed. And 9S, move that the Board of Education approves the creation and implementation of the pilot SPF Teacher Career Advancement Program support team.
Thank you, Dr. Mast. Do we have a motion?
So moved.
Mrs. Winkler. Is there a
Second.
Second, Mr. Murray, thank you. Any questions or discussions? If you'd like to move them as a block, Mr. Canales, would you please call the roll?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Ms. Winkler?
Yes.
Mr. Murray?
Yes.
Ms. Bauer?
Yes.
Ms. Baroff?
Yes.
Ms. Brody?
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell?
Yes.
Ms. Soriani?
Yes.
Dr. Kulikowski?
Yes. Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Canales. Thank you, Dr. Mast. Personnel report, Dr. Mast?
Yes, move that the Board of Education approves the superintendent's recommendations for personnel that was discussed in exec this evening.
So moved. Second.
Okay, so Mrs. Winkler was motion and Mrs. Brody is the second. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, Mr. Canales, would you please call the roll again?
Sure. Ms. Winkler,
Yes.
Ms. Brody,
Yes.
Ms. Bauer,
Yes.
Ms. Morrow,
Yes.
Ms. Mitchell,
Yes.
Ms. Soriani,
Yes.
Mr. Murray,
Yes.
Dr. Kulkowski.
Yes. And motion carries again. Thank you, Mr. Canellis. Thank you, Dr. Mast. Business report. That brings us back to you, Mr. Canellis.
Thank you, Dr. Kulkowski. We're asking the board to move a series of motions that I'll review. Business 1, which is our staff training report. Business 2, which is the disposal of some library books at Broner that are either obsolete or damaged. Business 3 is the approval of some roof repairs at our schools under a co-op contract, and the funds will be withdrawn from the maintenance reserve to cover such expenses. Business item 4 is our special counsel in the matter of CL versus Scotch Plains-Fanwood Board of Education. Business 5 involves painting of the Brunner and Terrell school canopies, again, purchased through the Hunterdon County Co-op, and the funds will be withdrawn from the maintenance reserve. 6 business is for the purchase of fire and burglar alarm equipment through the New Jersey ESC Co-op. Business 7 is are some industrial supplies and equipment that we will be purchasing through the Hunterdon County ESC. Business item 8, as Mr. Murray hinted to earlier, is the disposal of some backhoes and a school bus. Business 9, we're asking you to approve a bench and the installation of such bench for the boys soccer coach, Mr. Tom Brzezinski, donated by Linda Brzezinski. And then in Business 10, we are asking you to approve some related service vendors for the remainder of the 22-23 school year. In Business 11, we are appointing the choreographer for the Nettingham musical. In Business 12, we are asking you to approve our fire security drills as well as our bus drills. Business 13 are our typical financial reports for the months ended October 31 and November 30th. Business 14 are our disbursements for November. Business 15 is our bills list for the period November 16th through December 13th. And last but not least is we are asking you to approve a settlement agreement as printed in the agenda.
Could I have a motion?
I have one question.
We've got to have a motion first.
So moved.
Thank you, Mrs. Winkler. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs. Soriani. Now, if there's any question or discussion, Mrs. Mitchell.
So excited to ask. In 2BUS, can we speak to where those books go? Are they donated, or are they beyond repair, or what happens to those books, the obsolete or damaged books?
They do have to go through a process where people have access to them if they can use them.
Great.
Is there any other question or discussion? Being none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. Thank you, Mr. Canellis. And then that brings us to board policies. Mrs. Winkler,
Not at this time. Stay tuned.
thank you.
They're
Any-
coming.
They'll be coming. Any new board business? Okay. Other board business, any liaison reports? Mrs. Bauer.
You can go.
Back to
I just wanted to give a brief update. Garden State Coalition of Schools met on Wednesday, this past Wednesday morning. And it was an interesting conversation with John Mooney from New Jersey Spotlight. And Garden State had shared a number of areas they wanted to focus a conversation around, which are concerns for all of us: transportation, mental health and wellness, special education, school security, facilities and finance, healthcare, and the educator shortage. So all the conversations really went around those topics. And the nice thing about talking with him is it will generate a lot of, I think, press and coverage for a wider audience in New Jersey about these topics and concerns related to each of these issues. So that was good. And we're meeting again in January, and I don't know anyone else who was attending wants to add anything in particular, but those were the topics.
It's a pretty intense meeting.
It's a good meeting.
Thank you, Mrs. Bauer. Was there any other liaison report to be held?
Yeah, I had the New Jersey School Boards Association Delegate Assembly, and I know that there were some other people that were on the call. I think that there's really four points about it that are interesting. There's some new communication tools that they're rolling out for us that I think will be useful for board and admin. One is negotiations data portal, which will be provided to membership. There's going to be an opportunity for an online exchange of information, a portal of sorts where we can, as board members, go on. You could be part of a community, let's say a board president's community. You could join a community about like documents. I think I have an example somewhere here, but you know, like if you want to look at the format of another district's reporting that they do. So I think that's a bit, for those in the public, that's a big development, and that's exciting. They're also opening up a Zendesk, which apparently is for allowing board members to get a ticket when they reach out to the call center with a question or concern. And the other thing that they really are putting their focus on, they did a wonderful presentation with a gentleman named Jeff Gale, who's the director of the Office of School Preparedness and Emergency Planning. And they just really highlighted that they put together a policy for the establishment of threat assessment teams for each school that they'll be rolling out in the 2023-24 districts. But their emphasis really is on school safety, and I know our district has been in touch with and has a really good relationship with Mr. Gale already. So that was New Jersey School Boards, if anybody had anything to add there. And then the other one was the Special Education Parent Advisory Group, CPAG. They had their monthly meeting on Monday because it is always the first or second Monday of the month. And they had this meeting purposely held just as parents, without any admin or myself there, which was an opportunity, their first, real internal meeting to hear, get a different perspective from everybody. But things that they wanted me to share that's really important for everyone is that they have, if you go to the SPF website and go to special services, there's a link to the CPAG page. And on the CPAG page, they have an opportunity for an art gallery, which is open to all students. Parents can fill out a form and submit a picture of the artwork, which everybody gets to go see on the website. There's a form that you can fill out that will have information for your child. And then just the next meeting is January 9th. That's it.
Thank you, Mrs. Bullock. Any other liaison reports? Mrs. Winkler.
Not exactly a liaison report or a workshop report, but today New Jersey Spotlight hosted a roundtable discussion, the subject of which was, is teaching in trouble, all about the dwindling teaching pipeline. And there were about 170 attendees at this event. Dr. Angela Allen McMillan, who is the acting commissioner of education, like when are they going to actually just name her the commissioner of education already? But she gave opening remarks, and then the panelists included James Earl, who's the superintendent in Trenton, Olivia Haas, who is a fairly young math teacher out of East Brunswick High School, Suzanne McCotter, who is the dean at TCNJ School of Education, and Jennifer Scomiel, who is teacher at the Academy for Education and Learning at Morris County Vocational Schools, and moderated by John Mooney and Joanna Gagis from NJ Spotlight. And they talked about a lot of different things, and I find myself torn often at these sort of things between the discussion going on by the panel and the discussions going on in the chat. But I tried to take some notes on some of the ideas that were floated by either the panel or the chat participants. They talked about making some changes to the teacher certification system and implementing a pilot program for retired teachers to come back into the classrooms, increasing the school funding formula, expanding access to pre-K. They came up with ideas about having student teaching be paid as opposed to, because it's not now, less expensive testing for teachers to get certified as teachers. Getting the degree should show that they have some basic minimum skills, where then they have to go and take the basic minimum skills test on top of it, which is an expensive test to take, and especially for teachers, new teachers who are not yet working. And then they talked about maybe eliminating the New Jersey First Act, so that we can maybe hire some teachers from out of state if we're finding that we're low, although it seems like a lot of states are having shortages of teachers, so they may not be pounding down the doors from Pennsylvania or New York either. They talked about creating some sort of a nationalized certification so that we could sort of across state borders get certified teachers. They talked about having the counties maybe create some sort of virtual online schooling for teachers who were not coming back into classrooms. To keep them as teachers, they could do the virtual teaching, possibly to cover classes when teachers are in schools where they're having trouble filling teacher vacancies, but also for students who have to go out temporarily, like if they're out on a COVID leave and they'll be out for a little bit. They threw all sorts of things out there as ideas. I mean, it's not, these aren't legislators, this isn't legislation, but these were just some of the different things they threw out as suggestions. They talked about alternative measures for instruction instead of so many standardized tests. They talked about changing the way that we do instruction to have a combination of in-person and virtual instruction, or re-examining the 180 days requirement. And then they talked, a lot of the discussion also focused around respect for teachers and the profession of teaching, and that one of the reasons why people are not going into the field is really because there's such low respect for educators today, that it's gone downhill. As you're all probably aware, but the teacher shortage is something that's been in the making for at least a decade, and the pandemic just sort of accelerated that decrease in the number of people going into the profession. So there was a lot of discussion about why that would be the case, and yeah, that's about it.
Okay.
But it was a good discussion.
Thank you, Mrs. Winkler. And any other reports, meetings? Okay, well, that closes that portion. Any requests to attend workshops or workshop reports? Seeing none, we'll move on to the approval of the minutes. We have minutes from November 17th, the regular public meeting executive session, and the November 17th regular public meeting. Can I have a motion to accept those minutes?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Is there a second? Thank you, Mrs. Mitchell. Any question or discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Any abstaining? Motion carries. In accordance with the Scotch Plains-Fanwood Public School Bylaw 0164-0165, The meeting will be open for 15 minutes for public comments, maximum 3 minutes per speaker. Speakers addressing superintendent items, business functions, and other board business will be heard first. If time remains, speakers may address other matters. Speakers, when you want to come to the podium to make your public comment, state your full name and the town in which you reside. Please keep in mind that board members should not be approached. In addition, board members cannot respond regarding concerns with individual students or staff members. Such matters should be addressed with the superintendent's office. So if you'd like to make a public comment, please come up to the podium at this time. Seeing no one, I'm going to close this portion of the meeting and move on to the upcoming scheduled meetings. Thursday, January 5th, is our board reorganization meeting at 7:30 in this administration building. There is no executive session at that time, so when we meet for the meeting, we come directly out here at the 7:30. Thursday, January 19th, there will be a regular public board meeting with the 7:30 executive session in the boardroom, and then the public portion will be out here at 8 o'clock. Can I have any remarks for the good of the order? Mrs. Winkler.
So, Ms. Boroff and I met, we didn't realize we were both going to be there, but we happened to meet there this evening. The high school's multicultural club is having a food festival, and they are a bunch of students with, as obviously, multicultural backgrounds, and they are all representing their different cultures with all kinds of food that they're sharing, and it goes till 9. Okay, it's a little after 9, so no one's running from here to there, but it was really fun. It was really exciting to see them and their pride in their different cultural foods, and it's fun.
Well, that's great. Thank you, Mrs. Winkler. Any other remarks? We have the lovely new artwork that we have. I love the change every meeting.
Dr. Colgan.
Mrs. Mitchell.
Just a friendly reminder to use the crosswalks to all students feverishly listening to this YouTube. I've been driving by at the start of high school and seeing some students so eager to come to school, not go to the corners, so just as a reminder for safety for all to do that. And I was with some of the other board members here, the superintendent's coffee, which was well attended and a real intimate opportunity for people to be heard and to hear things that Dr. Mass generously answered questions. So be on the lookout for, we're having one in spring, is that right? So hope to see more people there.
Thank you, Mrs. Mitchell. Mr. Murray.
I had the pleasure of attending last night the 7th and 8th grade choral and band concert at Terrell, which was very nice. Our bowling team has won the Westfield Invitational and beat Westfield.
All right.
Oh, really?
That's always headlines. Ice hockey won their first game, and hot off the press, girls basketball beat Summit tonight 42-31. So congratulations to everyone.
Wow. Thank you, Mr. Murray. Appreciate the sports update.
Can I add one more thing to
Oh,
that?
sure,
One
Mrs.
more thing to
Mitchell,
that.
go right ahead.
The swim team also had their opener against Summit. It was a tough one, but it was a very enthusiastic. It's a lot of seniors left, so there's new blood, but the team shows a lot of unity and a lot of spirit, and it was a great time and effort.
Excellent. Thank you, Mrs. Mitchell. Any other comments?
We also had a very celebratory National Honor Society induction.
About that. Monday night.
That was Monday, National Honor Society induction. Okay.
I suppose that this is the last opportunity to wish everyone a happy holiday and a happy new year. So happy holidays and happy new year, everyone.
Thank you, Mrs.
And just a
Borough.
reminder to everyone to be kind to yourself and to others. I think we can always use a reminder, so.
Okay, if there's no other comments for the last time in 2022, can I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Thank you, Mr. Murray. Is there a second?
Second.
Thank you, Mrs.
I think Winkler won.
Either one.
Boroff. You had one before. Okay. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? I didn't think so. Motion carries. We are adjourned.